Music is a vehicle that can take you anywhere you want to go, anytime you want to be there. No matter what you do, why you do it, who you choose to do it with or for, music will ensure that the moment is always just right. The saxophone is the luxury sports model of all vehicles that insists that you experience the ultimate groove that sets the mood for whatever you choose. Mighty Horn Music presents the COVID Concert Series with saxophonist Travis Bridges. Live from the Hollywood home studio. Smooth jazz, top 40, R&B, inspirationals, and more. Thank you for tuning in. You are now on a musical first-class journey to anywhere you want to be. Hello. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Swym, Pwym. I am your host, Travis Bridges, and this is another edition of Swym, Pwym. We do it on Wednesday nights, and we're talking about talking. What do you mean, man? What are you talking about? Talking about talking. How do you talk about talking? Well, you just talk, and you talk about what you're talking about. And I'm doing that because I believe I'm just called to do that in this season. As a result of my most recent experience with everything that I've dealt with over the past 3 to 5 years, I've just found myself in a place of where I've learned so much by looking into that mirror, looking into my soul, even going back to my childhood and pulling up things about myself that I recall that maybe I never addressed, that caused me to discover some things about myself that I never knew. Those are things that help me to become a better person by accepting them, facing them, standing toe-to-toe with them, and realizing what is truth versus what I made up or what I created or what I was taught or what I chose to believe, and comparing it with what really is. And going through that process has been such a blessing that I am just now moved to share that. And what I'm sharing exactly is hoping that anyone that I encounter will be moved by what I learned. And that's examining what you hear versus what's actually being conveyed, what is actually meant by what is being said or conveyed, and then listening again to make sure that you understand. Because oftentimes, and I'm going to speak for myself, and I'm sure I'm not alone, we will have what we call chaos, whether it's in our family, whether it's between a husband and wife, or significant others, or neighbors, where we don't understand. And I believe that's what is the number one cause of chaos. Sometimes when you know, you don't understand. And when you don't understand, you don't know. Something like that. But chaos is a result of just not listening and paying attention. And then you could probably have a situation where maybe someone may not want to understand, may not want to get to the bottom. Sometimes we have what we call our ego, or our emotions will get in the way, and before you know it, we will even tell the truth where to get off. And that's not cool, because the truth is something that will set us free. The truth is something that we should welcome, and the truth is something that sometimes is hard to hear or accept. I've often heard it said that the truth hurts. Well, the truth doesn't hurt. Not accepting what is what hurts. So somehow the cliche is that the truth hurts. Well, the truth may not feel good if you don't want to hear it. So I'm going to totally revoke that, in that, no, the truth doesn't hurt. Sometimes we have to get over our ego or our feelings or our expectations, and that may not be comfortable for us. But discomfort is not necessarily pain, so to speak. Sometimes we need to be uncomfortable to build a muscle, so to speak, like when you're working out or you're trying to build up your endurance, maybe with your cardio. You have to go into a place of discomfort in order to get to where you can actually run a half marathon or a marathon or maybe even a 5K. But you just don't get out there and start doing it. You have to go through some discomforts, whether if you are, bodybuilding or just trying to build muscle or strengthen your muscles. You have to put the resistance on it, and the resistance is what builds. So, with that being said, I'm going to again welcome you. My name is Travis Bridges. By chance, if you have a subject or a topic that you'd like for me to analyze, I don't mind doing it. I'm not a professional. I don't claim to be a professional. I'm not here because I think have arrived somewhere. I just do believe I've come close to being able to analyze situations, particularly my own, without including too much of my feelings, my emotions, or my beliefs. And when I say not including them, that doesn't mean that I don't acknowledge them or I just totally do away with them. It's just that I don't allow those aspects to be the leading cause of either my decisions or determining factors when it comes to analyzing information. So again, if you have a subject or a topic you'd like to just talk about yourself or just have me talk about, I don't mind examining information or examining evidence to get to the bottom of what we would call the truth or truth. So with that being said, Travis Bridges at AOL.com. I'm sorry, Travis Bridges 2 at AOL.com is my email. And if you send me an email to either communicate with me, put call me in the subject, and then in the body of the email, just put your information or the subject, and I promise I'll address it. Hadn't been getting too many as of yet, and that's okay because no one knows who I am, and I'm okay with that. I don't think this is practice, but it's almost like a little dress rehearsal. I don't have my theme and my background and all the fancy stuff that would normally come with, my live stream, but it's on the way. I promise you. I believe I'm going to get even better at being in front of the camera and having audience and working all of my gadgets. In the next few weeks, the scene will change as I will be taking a little break to work on my third CD project. I'm finally going to write that book, and I'm going to learn a foreign language. So I will change my scene for just a few weeks, in a few weeks, for a few weeks, just until I can get well underway with that project that's been underway for well over 5 or 6 years now. I'm just finally getting around to doing it, and I'm excited about it and grateful for it. So if you are one of those praying folks or one of those folks who believe in positive energy, please send some my way, because over the next few weeks I will be needing it and I will be looking for it, and I will thank you in advance right now for sending it to me. Okay? Thank you. Again, this is Swym, Pwym, say what you mean, play what you mean. I'm Travis Bridges, and I'm going to get on with my caller. And if there's anyone in my room right now, let me address Kimberly Covington. And according to my list, I have 3 other people that are watching, and maybe 3 or 4 others that have been here or may still be here. So if you are watching or listening, thank you. And if you are watching or listening at a later time, because I do leave these up till eternity. And if you're watching this, one day, 1,000 years from now, thank you for supporting what I'm doing. So, with that being said, I'm going to go to my first caller. But before I get my caller on the line, hold on a second. What is this? What is this? What are you talking about? Okay, I do have some technical engineers that are kind of sort of looking out for me, and I had to read this. So what I'm going to talk about tonight with my callers is being comfortable with being in chaos or being comfortable with being unhappy. Familiarity sometimes, keep us in the same place. And sometimes people can do something that doesn't feel good and wonder why they do it. For instance, drugs or alcohol or smoking or eating even. I'll go ahead and vouch for that last one. I really like to eat, but I don't like the results of eating too much. but somehow I'll find myself doing it for a bunch of reasons. But one of the reasons I'm going to address tonight is because we become familiar with it and it's all we know. And when we get away from it, we find a way to get back to it. So if you go on a diet and you lose some weight for a couple of months and you start looking real good, you're not accustomed to feeling good. So some way, somehow, your brain, if it's not, under control, it'll find a way to get back to that greed or those cigarettes or those drugs or that alcohol or those women or those men, whatever your weakness is, or shopping, whatever. And I'm just going to address, being familiar with being in chaos or uncomfortable. Also, communicating with other people, as I said earlier, listening, hearing, making sure you understand what someone is saying, and as well as what they meant, as well as discussing how you may be perceiving what they're saying. All of those things mixed together makes for a really good conversation and peace in your environment if you can find the time to make sure you hear and you listen carefully, as well as accepting, what is. When we have those tough conversations, sometimes if they don't work out in our favor, we don't let it go. We don't know how to let it go. And I don't want to say it's a problem, but it speaks for itself. When you don't accept the truth or evidence, you know, what else do you do? I guess that's what the police are for, uh, and the court system or judges or whatnot. But anyway, we should all be open to examining and be willing to accept what we discover, um, because I believe the truth has a way of resonating with our soul when we're on the frequency of good. Because without a doubt, there's not really good or bad, but there are opposing sides to everything. So there's night and day, there's light and dark, there's good or bad, maybe. There's wet and dry, hot and cold, you get my point. But anyway, I'm going to get my caller on and we'll discuss some of those things. So thank you as we wait. And here we go with my fancy audio equipment. Let's see here.
Hello.
Hello there, caller.
Hi.
How are you tonight?
I am doing just fine. How are you doing this evening?
Not bad at all. So when you say fine, that's a four-letter word.
Yes.
That's acceptable. Some four-letter words are usually not accepted in the media, but it's so common. So when someone says they're fine, I've learned to say, well, what do you mean fine? So I just heard you. You can't backtrack now. You said you're doing fine. What does fine mean to you?
To me, that means emotionally, I am good. As a matter of fact, to me, it means I'm good all the way around.
Okay.
Nothing missing, nothing broken. That's what that means.
Okay.
But then fine could mean that I think I'm good looking. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Well, if you don't think it, who else is going to think
it? Exactly. And I got it. So I told you I'm fine all the way around.
So which one is it? Are you emotionally stable right now, or are you good looking? Which is it?
Both of them. I'm most definitely emotionally stable, especially after going through, the trauma that I went through with the cancer and all that stuff. It messed with me emotionally for a while, and my vitamin D, my vitamin B, everything was just all over the place. And now I'm at a place where it's just balanced all over. So.
Well, praise the Lord. Come on, give me some.
Hallelujah. Glory to God. Come on here. I give you some dap right now.
I'm in a reception. I receive it.
Yes.
So, yeah, I don't know if you were listening, but I'm going to just talk to my audience again and just tell you I'm here because I want to bring awareness to communication, how we listen, how we hear, how we pay attention, how we accept, and how we settle disputes, especially those hard ones that involve chaos. It's not easy.
Okay.
You really do have to be, as the old folk would say, grown. You have to be an adult to have an adult conversation, and we're not always, that. But in particular, I'd like your take as we discuss being comfortable in chaos. Now, as much as I would love to pretend to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist and I don't know all of the terminology. I just do understand it. Some way, somehow, when people become familiar with, whatever state we find ourselves, um, it's what we find ourselves doing, whether we like it or not. For instance, and I gave the example with drug users or alcohol or people who may eat too much. As soon as we get clean from those things, because it's familiar, and if we're not totally delivered and set free, whether it's a drug program or whether it's just coming to meetings with ourselves or whether it's going to the altar and getting delivered, from a spiritual perspective, we find a way back to what's familiar. And I
Right.
would like to hear your take on why do you think the mind is so easy to go to that familiar place when we know we don't like how we feel and our clothes fit when we eat the wrong thing and too much of it, or how we feel after we've had a whole bottle of something, alcoholic to drink or some drugs. When you're getting high or, when people are smoking or whatnot, it's feeling good right then, but when they're coughing or they're getting the feedback from that, it's not so good, but we find ourselves doing it anyway because it brings pleasure or it's temporary. So without running on, what's your feeling about that comfortable place that we find ourselves in, and how do we address it and get away from it?
I think, honestly, just from my perspective, that things have become normalized. It's the norm.
Mm-hmm.
People have become accustomed to the abuse. People have come accustomed to the trauma, the drugs, the lifestyle, and sometimes people check you, bring awareness to what it is that you're doing, and try to redirect you and give you other alternatives.
Mm-hmm.
But because you're so accustomed to it, and it's normal, you're not like a functioning alcoholic. You can't even tell that they are alcoholic. They walk straight. They go to work every day. They maintain a job. They have a family. But the alcohol is really leading and guiding their life, and they don't even realize the destructive path that they're on. And I think that that's a major part of it. Functioning in what's normal, but it's dysfunctioning. So I think that that's my response to that question.
Okay. You just said something that was interesting to me. You said, like a functioning alcoholic. You don't know
Right.
that. Um, really?
Can you repeat that?
You said a functioning alcoholic. Someone can have a problem with, I guess alcohol in particular, and you say you won't know it. How is that possible for someone to be what is that? What is a functioning alcoholic?
Well, if you're in the workplace with an individual, they come to work every day. There may be some things that may be kind of off, but you really don't know that it's the alcoholism. Now, the immediate friends, they know. And it's just that functioning, able to function day to day, and maintain a normal life, but you have this issue, this situation that's really is detrimental to your life, to your family, more so to those people who are around you in your circle.
Okay, so I think I just kind of answered my own question when you said, you don't know it. Well, if a person
Right.
don't know you, they won't know it.
No,
But,
no, they
and
won't know it.
there won't be a way for them to know it. And those, I guess, I wouldn't say that they're not the ones that matter, but family and people that are close to you will know it. Do you think a person could be have an issue like that and then go for really long periods of time and no one actually notice if they're really in tune and care and love that person? I'm not saying
Yes,
it couldn't happen. No, go ahead. You were going to respond.
I was going to say yes. I was going to say yes. I do believe that studies show it. But eventually, Travis, you know, signs and symptoms, things show up, and although you may be functioning, able to come to work and do your job, but you're not able to do your job as well as you were.
Hmm.
Maybe you're coming to work tardy now. Maybe your work is kind of sloppy. You start showing some signs of it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what is it? Again, back to my question. What is it that drives us to be comfortable in chaos?
what drives us to become.
Or do you,
I'm not.
first of all, do you agree?
I'm
Do
not.
you
I'm.
agree that people, that we have a tendency to gravitate towards what's familiar to us?
Oh yeah, yeah. I do believe that. I do.
So then I guess my question still is, what causes that?
I guess human behavior. Environmental things. Pressure. I don't know. Some people just, again, I keep saying it's the norm. We've grown accustomed to it. That that's my answer for that. So I don't. Any other thing? Let me see. I'm just sitting here trying to think about just like
That's okay. While you're
community,
thinking, let me
like
jump in on it.
violence in the community. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go
Let
ahead.
let me let me jump in. I think it is a lack of knowledge. First of all, one of my favorite books says we perish for lack of knowledge.
That's
Although
true.
you may have some information that, okay, I know this isn't good. When we don't continue to work on ourselves, we have to continue to work on ourselves daily. And when we don't know any better, we don't do any better. And I believe when we're not aware that we're gravitating to that, that's why we have support groups, and then that's why there are,
Right.
organizations that help people. They're not there to tell them what they don't know. They're just there to remind them of how to stay focused. So I think the reason we continue to gravitate is because of, our lack of knowledge and awareness that we have the actual issue or concern or problem. So
Well,
when
then
we're
some
not,
people would say, I'm sorry, please forgive me
no,
for
no, no, go
interrupting.
ahead. No, no.
Well, some people would say it's insanity because if you do the same exact thing all the time and expect different results, it's insanity. At some point in time, you have to come to the realization that what you're doing is it's not right, it's not working, and you need to change your behaviors or whatever it may be that you may be functioning in that's abnormal. So, and I think that that's a part of that.
Okay. I'm going to move on to the second thing that's here on my list. It's important to communicate with others, especially in times of chaos. The
Mm-hmm.
reason I'm bringing attention to this is because when we have chaos, we together we stand, divided we fall. I used to hear my mother say that, and I thought to myself, of course you're standing if you're leaning against each other, but if you're separated, you will fall. I didn't get it the way I get it now, and that's with a lot of things that I would hear not only my mother say, but other adults would say. But it's important to communicate with people, particularly those close around us. But it's also important to communicate with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to listen to someone else and understand them, but and I stress communicating with other people and listening, but listening to ourselves is even more important. It goes with that saying, and everybody uses this, and we wear it out. Like the flight attendants or the captain will say, when the mask comes down, put it on yourself first,
Mm-hmm.
and then help those around you. Well,
Right.
I'm kind of using that same energy to make my point now. Of course, we need to listen to other people and be open to hear what they're saying, and not only what they're saying, but what they're meaning. But we've got to hear ourselves too. And one of my things that I've learned is like we got to listen to what we may sound like to other people. I have a bad habit of being specific and direct. And because I'm being very clear, sometimes I don't pay attention to my tone. And before you know it, then I'm like, okay, well, maybe that's why somebody didn't want to hear what you had to say. It
Right.
wasn't that you were
Right.
right or wrong, it's just the way you said it. And it took me a long time, and I'm still having to work on my tone, and it's not easy because I've bought and owned the rights to um, saying, okay, I'm just straightforward, kind of no nonsense. But
Mm-hmm.
my son would even tell me, but Dad, not everybody can understand you. My son thinks I'm a complex, not that I'm difficult, but there's so many parts inside of my head that no one will take the time to understand what I mean, especially if they're hearing me speak, specific and direct. So I guess the point I'm making is as important as it is to listen to other people, what they're saying, what they mean, and filter it through how we may be receiving it. we also have to listen to ourselves.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean not be who you are, but just be a little more mindful of how you might be coming across, when you're trying to communicate with somebody. So I don't guess there's a whole lot more to say about that, but if you do want to chime in, by all means, please do.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. As a matter of fact, right before you called me, I got a call from my uncle. He's over in Mexico. He and his friend are on a cruise. Excuse me, not a cruise, but vacation.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Hey, I need to talk to you. Let me tell you what happened. We were out in the beach, and I got excited, and I pushed my friend's head under the water, held it up under there. She came up swinging. She's upset. Came back in the room. They went out downstairs, went to the pool. He did the same thing. He said, so tell me, what do you think about that? I said, first of all, you're wrong. You're on a cruise, on vacation in a whole other country in the middle of a pandemic. You are with an African American woman who just got her hair done so she can make you feel good about the way she's looking. She can't go get a blow dry, can't get her hair done. He hung the phone up on me. And so I called him back and he hung up again. And I was like, why are you hanging up? I said, remember, because you were the same person who were hitting her with snowballs and you were being very aggressive. And so I'm like, where your aggressive nature, where's that coming from? So it's like she's communicating, stop, don't do that, don't be so aggressive, but you're still doing it. So there's a major break in communication due to whatever he might have experienced in his life, but he don't want to hear about it. And if you communicate, and communication is not one way. You listen to me, I listen to you, then we problem solve together. But we can't solve this problem if you're not willing to listen.
Right.
Yeah.
So he wasn't willing to listen to you.
No, and he wasn't willing to listen to her.
So he hung up on you.
He hung up on me, yes.
And you called him back and he hung up again.
That's correct.
So you don't know where he is in that situation now.
No, I don't, because then he gave me the excuse and said his daughter was calling him.
Okay.
Yeah, but in a different country, you have to really be careful, and we have to think about our actions before we do them, before we say what we're saying. And I agree with what you're saying. We should be able to communicate what's on our mind, our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, desires, whatever. But we also got to be willing to listen to the other individual as well.
Mm-hmm. So you don't think he listened to you or was willing to listen? You think he's still in trouble? You think she's still upset with him now?
I'm sure I would be. But then the type of person I am, because I value communication, I would do something. I would be steaming for maybe about a good 15, 20 minutes. And after that, I will find something, other than this, my hair to focus on. As a matter of fact, if I got extensions in, I'll just take them out. I just wear my natural hair. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So there's other things that we can do. I'm not going to dwell on this because I want to enjoy the vacation.
Right. Okay. I get that. Which leads me to, I guess, the third thing here. There's something about the truth that's unique. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
There's something about falseness or a lie that's unique too. Would you also agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. You know how they say it takes one to know one. Remember when we were kids and somebody would call you something, they say, "Yeah, well, it takes one to know one." Mm-hmm. I believe that can transfer also over to, how we hear and how we process.
Right.
I don't think the mental health industry or psychologists and psychiatrists would even be in business if there was not a way to manage or measure, rather, certain levels of sanity. You agree?
I agree.
And as a society, we've come to reason with what is considered reasonably acceptable, normal, or even lawful, correct?
I agree with that.
So as we hold each other accountable in society, there are certain things that are considered acceptable, lawful, considerate, respectful. that we have to kind of sort of be in line with if we're going to communicate or interact with our uh, fellow people, correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So, as when I start talking about, the truth, resonating, if we're somewhere in the range of what we call a good frequency or normal, because sometimes people can be abnormal and just not be conscious and not be thinking well for whatever reason. And then sometimes people can be over exaggerating and thinking too much, over analyzing things.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm taking this long route to get to the point of the truth having a way of resonating with a person when they're within that normal range. Just like, you know, untruth will have a way of resonating. One of my favorite TV characters is Judge Judy. I really like watching her because I like, the legal system and, for a bunch of different reasons. But she has this saying that says, if something doesn't make sense, it's probably not true.
Right.
Which lends itself to, when we're in that frequency of being open and, what we would call normal or having a reasonable expectation, when we hear something, we can kind of analyze it. If you're not in a situation, if you're, let's say, if you're not there, you can't say what happened. There's some truth to that, but you can examine evidence. There's no way, cases wouldn't be unsolved, mysteries, especially within the court system and with detectives and lawyers. They there's a way to examine information and evidence that will lead you to what would be considered normal or sensible, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I guess I'm not sure how I was going to address how the truth has a way of resonating and how the truth, will set you free
Mm-hmm.
and how the truth, it's just freedom. You sleep better when you're in that zone. I call it like a zone of where you're not overthinking and you're within your right mind. You're kind of within that scope of what society has labeled as normal.
Mm-hmm.
No disrespect to anything or anyone, but in order for us to get along, we have to abide by certain things, whether it's a law, a universal principle, or just a range that keeps us all accountable. So, in making my point, uh, the truth as well as untruth has a way of showing itself through information, evidence, and being open to it. Would you agree?
I do agree.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? I have the answer, but I want to hear you. Why is it that we feel a certain way when we hear something that is true, and then we feel a certain way when we hear something that's how can that be? What happens? Because when you hear something, and as a normal functioning person, you say, you don't have to be what you call judgmental, but you have to analyze what you hear, what you see, and what's presented, in front of you. Why is it? Here's my question, because I'm rattling. You have to catch me sometimes.
I have to catch you sometime.
Yeah,
Okay, I got
sometimes.
you.
So here, let me just make my point or ask my question. Um, why is it? Why does the truth and untruth have such a presence?
Why does the truth and the untruth have such a
Yeah,
presence?
why does it resonate so? Like, for instance, again, okay, and I'm not going to rattle, I promise. When you hear something that is true or is good to your soul, it resonates. If you're in your right mind, so to speak, it does something to your soul. Like I was thinking today, like you ever go to church and you hear something that a story or a Bible
Mm-hmm.
verse, or you hear a good message that a speaker is trying to convey, and or then you hear someone on the street trying to sell you something, and then they tell you where they got it from or what how much it costs and how genuine it is, and then you go, wait a minute, well, this sounds a certain way, and you feel what we call good, and then you hear something else, and you say this doesn't sound too good. What is that? Do you understand my question?
I do understand your question,
Okay, so
and
expound then. Okay, you get it.
okay. Simply put, you go to church, you're going through a situation, You hear the truth, and as you said in the Word of God, there's freedom in hearing the truth. And once you accept that truth, there's peace that it brings to your soul and your mind. You know, it sets you on a whole different path for whatever it is you may be dealing with. So that's freedom. But then when you look at someone telling you a lie, you know, there's an opportunity for that person and what their actions or their words to put you in bondage. And who wants to be in bondage? You know, so it's like you seeing this person on the street.
Wait, hold on. That had to be hypothetical because that's it. We just addressed that a few minutes. Who wants to be in bondage? Who wants to be in chaos? A lot of us, including myself. I don't realize it. But anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Okay. No, I don't want to be in bondage. I don't like it. It doesn't feel good. You know, so I do all I can to problem solve and get myself out of situations that are like that are chaotic. You know, I've had enough of chaos and stuff in my life. So I don't want to be, I just don't want to be around people that brings negative energy in my life. There's some things we can't help. We're going to have to live in it. We have to deal with it. But what can I do to make it better? So that's the type of person that I am. So, but the again, a lie has a way of, making individuals feel bad. Sometimes, and the person on the street may be honest, but we've seen what happened to people in the United States who are trying to make an honest living, selling cigarettes or whatever. They end up dead, because the police didn't accept their truth. Their truth might have been, I'm selling these cigarettes so I can take some money back home and feed my family. But because I don't fit in your norm, now I end up dead, So I may be, going to a whole other space, but that's the truth of what we're dealing with in the United States. That's chaotic right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're right. That is definitely another subject for another time, and I would love to have that conversation because, you said a whole lot there that I could really address. Whew, that's a tough one because I remember some of those moments you were talking about, and there's a lot that goes into that, some people may not be ready to hear.
Right, that's true.
Because the truth has a way of making you uncomfortable and making you comfortable.
Yes, the truth has a way of setting you free, and the truth has a way of putting you in bondage. That's simply put.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we've done good with the information we've covered. I appreciate you, and thank you for being on my live stream. I appreciate it, and I like to ask, the question. You've been listening to me for a couple of weeks now, and it was an honor being on your live stream as well. And when you gonna invite me back? Was I that bad?
No, you were that good. And what's happening is that the show, I'm ending my season, and we are coming back with some new and better stuff. The format, everything is changing, and so I look forward to inviting you back next season for real because the people did love you.
Okay. Well, with that being said, what I'm doing, do you understand what I'm doing and why I'm here? We talked about it the last time. I want to cover it again, but I'd like to hear you, share with me what is your take on what I'm doing? Do you get why I sit in front of this, camera for an hour on Wednesday night? What point I'm making? Do you get it? Can you explain it back to me?
Yeah, I get it. So many of us now, we're finding our voice. Be it through music, dancing, comedy, singing, these different shows that are out here, because we all have something that we want to say. We want to bring truth and reality to something. And yes, so I get it. And all of our audiences most definitely will be different. But at the end of the day, you're still bringing, I'm bringing you this fact, this information that can help you. I love what we talked about the last time when you were talking about conflict. I still think about it. As a matter of fact, when you called me to be on the show, I still have my notes, and I look at those notes because I know that a lot of people have issues with solving conflict. So I really appreciate what you're doing, and I've invited other people to join you and listen to your stuff.
Well, I certainly do thank you for that. And the more the merrier. As I look at what I'm doing, I have I put a little time in the media by way of radio. When I was a youngster, I took some radio courses, in college, and then I was fortunate to be able to be an on-air radio announcer or DJ, disc jockey, and I had a good time. I never thought I would be doing anything in a talk format, but I understand what it means to try to have a format or a flow, a genre even, and to be able to try to hold the attention of people, especially in this day and time. You better be good or have something to say.
Yeah.
So I'm bringing all of that, into this, my life experiences as well as my professional experiences, and I don't know when I'm going to stop, how long it's going to last. And again, I'm not looking for anyone, I say this all the time, to prove me wrong. But
Right.
I would like to hear something opposing in terms of what I'm trying to bring awareness to. It's important to listen, hear, understand, make
Yeah,
sure we get it,
it
and then
is.
be accepting of what we hear, so that if we don't get what we like, and I'm going to go ahead and take my own medicine. I don't always like, the end result of something that I may be gunning for, expecting. But when the information is there, you've reasoned with your brother or your sister, and it's at the end of the day, and we have to rule, so to speak, being okay with what has been examined, and filtered through what we know to be, I guess, reasonable,
Hmm.
and being okay with that. So again, I sure do thank you. I won't hold you any longer.
Well, thank you for having me, and I'll go back to listening to the rest of your guests.
Okay. Well, I do
Okay.
have a few more minutes to make another call, but thanks again. Have a good night. Do me a
Okay.
small
Good night.
favor. Do me a favor.
What's,
Wait, don't leave
okay, I'm
yet.
listening.
Say hello, first of all, to Kimberly Covington and Anthony Morrow. There are two guests that are in the room that are regulars. So would you
Okay.
say
Hi,
hello to them?
Kimberly. Hello, Anthony. Nice to have you guys on with us tonight.
Yeah, they're there. They don't do too much talking, but I know they're both loyal. They're good friends of mine. I'm grateful for them, just like you. Thank you so much. But I'm gonna
Well, I
let you
hope
go.
I
But
said something tonight that made sense to them.
yeah, you did. And again, I hope people will be listening to this 1,000 years from now. But before I go, I need you to do me a favor. As you
What's that?
make your way through the rest of the week, find somebody, and I know you can. Find somebody that you need to say "I love you" to. And I'm gonna start throwing in, not necessarily apologizing, but sometimes we need to be nice to people.
Right.
But find somebody that you need to either be nice to, and or say "I love you" to, and then don't just say it, but call them, or send them a note or text message, and say something. Just be nice. Spread a little love. Will you do that for me?
I certainly will.
You promise?
I promise.
Pinky swear?
I pinky swear I have my pinky up twinkling it right now.
Okay. I
All right.
appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Have a good night.
All right, back at you. Take
Bye bye.
care. Bye. Caller numero uno, down. Thank you guys so much, Tony Morrow and Kimberly. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. You're gonna remember this day when I'm gonna say, well, there were only 4 people in, and now there's 4,000 or 40,000. Who knows? I just believe that when you have something to share and you continue to work towards it, it catches on, and people will hear. I'm not trying to be famous, but I do believe what I discovered should be popular. Um, and if I'm the messenger, then so be it. I believe strongly in what I've discovered in listening, in hearing, in paying attention, and wanting to be okay with hearing what someone else has to say. We have to take that time. And I'm the first one with little ego. I have to tell my ego, shh, listen to what's being said, and then don't filter it through how you feel, because the flesh is a mess. Where's the lie in that? Anyway, by chance, if you have something you'd like for me to analyze, I'd be glad to do it. I'm going to take a little short break because something's going on with my. Anyway, I'm going to run these spots real quick, and I'll be right back, and I'll get my other caller on. So do me a favor, hold the spot you got. I'll be right back.
Mighty, mighty, mighty horn music. Mighty, mighty, mighty horn music. As time draws near and you plan your social events, call Mighty Horn Music for a party you and your friends will never forget. From banquets, receptions, family reunions, and church functions to birthday, executive, or private parties, Mighty Horn delivers. Event packages include live musicians, psalmists, comedians, clowns, and a karaoke show that's guaranteed to make you laugh. Mighty Horn Music specializes in providing a variety of music to keep your guests going for hours. Mighty Horn Music. Let us create a custom sound for your special event. From start to finish, Mighty Horn Music will plan your theme, decorate, cater, and entertain your guests with class and style. This year, make your events live with Mighty Horn Music. Call 786-487-7338, 786-487-7338, or log on to mightyhornmusic.com and let's party.
Hey, hey, hey! Looks like we're back. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I appreciate that. I miss those days of live from the Hollywood home studio Sunday nights. Man, when COVID hit, man, it was crazy. So much happened as a result of COVID. You know, as bad as it was, I'm not going to say there was any good in it. But what it did was it caused me to really get busy and to dig in and start thinking and figuring out. And as a result of that, I'm doing some different things right now, and I'm not sure what the end result is going to be. But I am definitely starting to chew on some of those ideas that came along as a result of that. And this is definitely one of them. By chance, if you have a subject you'd like for me to address, I'm Travis Bridges, and I don't have a degree in any kind of psychology, psychiatrist, or anything like that. However, I do believe I have the ability to reason based on universal principles, points of references, and even, some things regarding the law and as it relate to common decency, minus how I feel and how I think. Doesn't mean I totally ignore my feelings at all, because I don't. I've got to be one of the most sensitive people that there are, but I'm not necessarily emotional. Try to explain that at some point in time. But I'm going to get my other caller on. But as I was saying, if by chance you'd like to share a topic with me or have me analyze something, I'd love to do it. And hopefully, again, no one will prove me wrong. But just, I'd like to hear some input on something opposing in terms of what I've discovered as a peaceful way to resolve conflict. So, I'm going to get my other caller on the phone, and we're going to finish out yet another edition of Swimmin' and Pwymmin'. That's short for Swym Pwym. Wait, don't talk yet. Let me figure this out. Hello?
Hello.
Hey.
Hey, how are you?
I'm okay. You don't sound like your normal self. You sound tired.
Because I am.
Well, I'm going to need you to step it up for at least another 12 minutes. So let's try this
Travis.
again. Let's try this again. Ring, 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 ring.
Hey, Travis.
Okay, I'll accept that. Hey, buddy, how you doing?
I'm all right. How about yourself?
Not bad at all. I understand you were out in them streets a little earlier.
I sure was, and I'm paying for it right now.
Well, everything has a little cost and a little price tag, and I know you. I know you will not put more on the counter than you have funds in your account to pay for. So if you're feeling it, it's because you ran up that tab that you know you could pay. So I ain't worried about you.
Okay, I like that analogy. Thank you, friend. I'm glad you have that much confidence in me.
And I do. Always have and always will. And trust me, if you start running out the wrong way, I know how to get you right back to where you need to be. And I ain't scared of you.
Okay.
Were you able to catch any of the live stream prior to me reaching out to you?
Yes, I was listening to you speak with your last caller for about 15, 20 minutes.
Okay, so what I want to address with you, I'm going to try to get to all three, but I want to ask you about being comfortable in chaos. Why is it that we find a way to be unhappy? Let me just tell you my story. Let me tell you what brought this on first. I was talking with one of my friends I call her my life coach. She's a very dear friend, like a sister to me, almost as close to me as you are. And she's very analytical like me, and we run things past each other. And I was sharing with her, some things, and we talked about it and we discussed it and then said, okay, so we're going to put this to rest, okay? And I was like, oh, yeah, 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 I'm going to put it to rest. We're good, we're good. I've analyzed it. I checked it out. I've scoped it out. So then this is what we're going to do. We're going to put it alone. We're going to let go and let God, leave it in the hand. Well, a couple hours later or the next day, I was talking to her about it, and she said, well, didn't we, what happened? And then I said, oh, yeah, but this is something else. And every time that I discussed that same thing again, she would say, let me tell you what's happening to you. You don't know how to be happy. You're not comfortable until you got something to worry and stress you out. And I was like, no, 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 no. She's like, no, no, you. And then she kind of broke it down and explained it to me. And I didn't like it. It didn't feel good because she was checking me real good. But she made a very good point. I had analyzed it. I had literally put it to rest. I let God have it. But because I'm not used to having peace, I picked it back up again. And I had to catch myself through my friend who caught my attention. It's like, learn to be happy. Why would you go back and visit something that torments your mind and discussing it and talking about it? And I was like, oh my God, she got me. Hands up. I was cold busted. So I'm learning now to be okay with, when I know, then I have to be free with what I know and be okay with it and learn to just put it to rest. So I just probably talked up all of our time, but I want you to expound about that. Why is it that we go back to that place? Why do we go back to the place that we know we don't want? Why do alcoholics go back to alcohol after they've been clean for 3 years? Or why do drug addicts? Why after I lose 100 pounds, I go right back to them same sandwiches?
Hmm. Well, a lot of it has to do with habits, you know. At least I think so. I think habits, make us. We don't break some habits, and so we may pause them, put them on pause for a minute or two, but we don't change them or um, they still exist somewhere deep down inside of us for various reasons, and we haven't figured out as to why. And then some people get bored. I think
Get bored with.
what
Wait, hold on.
with
Hold on.
some people.
Wait, you mean people get bored with freedom and happiness?
Yes,
No.
because they don't trust it. They don't trust
What?
it.
So
No.
wait a minute. You're
Yeah.
saying although you find yourself at peace and happy and free from the bondage, you want to go back into it because you don't trust? Are
Yeah,
you
you don't
kidding
trust it
me?
because you think it's a game. Or you think that something's around the corner or something can't be right. So let me prepare myself for what's coming. And you almost speak it into existence. People do it all the time because some people are natural warriors. Bad habits are very easy to continue with. It's breaking those bad habits and doing things different where it's hard. But bad habits are so easy to continue to do because we've done them for so long. So when you have chaos in your life and you don't have it, you start looking around for it. Where is it? It deserted me. Just the same as when we've talked about those parasites. So when you start losing weight, you might lose 100 pounds and still be thinking you're carrying 100 pounds, even though it's gone. But you're looking around for it. Where is it? You're going in the store shopping for clothes that you can't even fit anymore because those are too big. But your brain says, no, 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 no. This is what I'm comfortable. This is what I see for myself because you haven't changed the thought process. So, yeah. And some people think that if it ain't messed up, if it's good and happy and everything is copacetic, they're on guard. They're thinking, wait a minute, no, this is too good to be true. And is that really so? I don't think so. I think living happy, living free, living comfortable, living without the drama and chaos is peace. But when you have always been in it, it's sometimes really hard to break from that.
Well, let me just tell you something right now. I'm learning to not go back into that mess. And I got my face punched in real good by reality, earlier this week when I actually got caught going back into misery voluntarily. I was done. And I started thinking about it, talking about it before you know it. And we always attract what we focus on. Oh, boy, if we could get that one down, everybody would be free. But we focus on it, and because it's familiar, and and she just got in my face, and she said, you ain't happy.
Bless her heart.
You ain't happy until you getting your butt kicked, are you? And I was like, no. But then it's like, well, how you gonna lie to yourself? Did you not let it go? Were you not at peace? Well, why did you let the thought manifest itself to where you started talking about it, and before you know it, you're acting? I was like, okay. I needed to hear it, and I'm glad I did, and I'm grateful. Two more things before I go. The truth, resonated when you're on a certain frequency and you're in a good place of what we've accepted in society as considered normal. And I don't want to offend anybody's sin, because some people may or may not, be normal or abnormal. Sometimes we can be a little under, and sometimes we can be overly, we can think too much and not think enough. But when we want to try to find that balance to be in between, there's something about hearing either the truth or an untruth that will cause you to go, I don't know about that, which will force you to think a little more and speak a little more. So if you want to speak on that real quick in our 3 minutes we have left, why do you think the truth and untruth is so powerful and so strong to a stable-minded individual?
That's a really good question. I've been thinking about that. I like the caller before response saying that, I think when you hear the truth and know the truth, it automatically correlates or connects to your spirit, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you get something that's not true or untruth, and you automatically, like, your intuition, your body tells you, it protects you almost in a way, and tells you that ain't right.
Right. Go examine that again.
Yeah, something ain't right. Something don't feel right, and what's interesting about that is that so often we try to shut it down, even though it's there for our own protection. But sometimes we don't want to see it, so we try to shut it down and tell it that you don't know what it's talking about, right?
Right.
And that's where intelligence gets us in trouble, right? Because animals don't ever question their intuition. If their spirit tells them, no, we shouldn't be going this way, they don't go.
You mean their intuition? I don't know if animals have spirits. This is what I've been told. You mean if their instinct?
Their instinct, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Maybe they have spirits. I don't know, but I'm trying to be.
But their instinct tells them, no, don't do that. The same instinct would tell us the same thing. And we'd be like, well, no, they wouldn't lie to us.
Mm-hmm.
Would they? We're supposed to be the intelligent ones, right? So
supposedly.
And we have the intellect to know better. But that doesn't mean that we do better.
Well, I'm going to do better by the time right now. I don't mean to cut you off, but you put me on a late time tonight. So now we're on a roll. I'm going to have to shut us down. But you've been faithful in coming back every week. Maybe I can get you first next week and we can finish this along with who knows what else. Because I'm really beginning to enjoy chatting with you and some of the other people. So I'm going to shut us down. You okay with that?
Yes, I'm fine with that.
Okay, well, listen, do me a favor as you make your way throughout the rest of the week. Find somebody that you need to say, I love you to, and don't just say it. What are you going to do? You're going to show it, correct?
Absolutely.
And now here's another one. I'm going to add a little cherry on top. if you need to, not necessarily apologize, but if you need to be nice to somebody, see if we can do that too. Say I love you and
Okay.
then be nice. We can find somebody that we need to be a little nicer to, or say I love you too. So you gonna do it?
Sure will.
You promise?
Absolutely.
Pinky swear?
Pinky swear.
All right. Well, listen, you have a good night. I love you so much. Thank you so much for being with me, and we'll talk soon.
Absolutely. Good night to you as well.
Okay, bye.
All right. Bye.
Well, there you have it, folks. Another edition of Swym Pwym. I'm Travis Bridges. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I'll be back next Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And in a few more weeks, my location is going to change, and I'm going to do some things differently. I'm excited about what's ahead. It's been a long time coming, and I ask you and thank you for your prayers and support as I make my way onto whatever's ahead for me. So, with that being said, have yourself a good night. Find somebody you need to say, I love you too. Don't just say it, but show it to them. Till next week, you be good now here. Bye.